In this short video, we will briefly introduce the concepts and research regarding prosocial behavior and altruism. Prosocial behavior can be described as instances or acts in which an individual helps another individual. Altruism comes into the equation when an individual engages in this prosocial or helping behavior without the hopes of acquiring any rewards or benefits from helping, and is usually at the expense of the individual helping. However, something interesting to think about is, does altruism really exist? Are people really capable of emitting acts of kindness without any regard for themselves? One of the ways in which the field of evolutionary psychology attempts to account for the existence of altruism is through the concept of kin selection. Chapter 11 on prosocial behavior, as well as the Richard Dawkins video on altruism, will further explain the evolutionary theories of altruism and kin selection, but for the purposes of this video, a brief definition of kin selection is the postulation of how individuals partake in these altruistic acts solely with their family members, which then contributes to Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection. For example, an individual is more likely to help a family member or relative than a complete stranger unrelated to themselves, because helping a relative, even at the risk of their own life, will still ensure or promote the survival of their own genes. But again, is this really then altruism if the behavior of helping is reinforced by the preservation of one's genes? Going beyond the evolutionary theory of psychology in determining whether altruism exists, psychologists have referred to Abraham Lincoln's classic anecdote, wherein, as Lincoln was traveling, he had seen some piglets about to drown in a pond, and the mother pig helpless to stop such from occurring. Lincoln stopped the coach in order to return the piglets to safety. Such an act seems to be a demonstration of selflessness, to take time from his travels in order to help these defenseless animals. However, Lincoln confessed that the prosocial act he committed was quite selfish, because if he hadn't helped those piglets, he would not have been able to stop thinking about how he left them to die, and the guilt he'd experience would be much more uncomfortable than delaying his trip. Lincoln's statement coincides with what social exchange theory advocates, which explains that people usually emit a behavior because that behavior offers them more benefits and less costs. So, in the anecdote Lincoln gave, the benefits of saving the piglets outweighed the costs of leaving them to drown. In other words, the act of saving the piglets circumvented the distress and guilt that would have come about had Lincoln continued to travel on his path. Social psychologist Daniel Batson agrees with this notion espoused by social exchange theory, where individuals may partake in these seemingly selfless and altruistic deeds for selfish motives. Nonetheless, Batson maintains the opinion that altruism does indeed exist, particularly in the presence of empathy, where an individual is able to understand and really feel what another person is going through. Batson then came up with the empathy-altruism hypothesis, which describes how feeling empathy for another allows one to engage in prosocial behavior that is genuinely altruistic, without thinking about how one can minimize costs and maximize benefits from the situation. In learning about all these different perspectives that researchers and psychologists have about altruism, what do you think? How do you think about such a concept? Does altruism truly exist?